Capsule stain is a little different from most of the stains that we're doing. It's also a differential stain because we are going to differentiate between bacteria based on the presence or absence of the capsule, right? But what we can't really do is we can't color the capsule. It doesn't have a nice defined structure for us to color. So what we're going to do is call a negative stain. We're going to color everything except the capsule. Okay, so there's no real primary stain here. All we have is the background stain, and for that we're going to use nigrosin. It's a very coarse stain. It doesn't color the cells, right? So it basically colors everything but the cells. And then our counter stain, safranin, which should color the cells, right? So which means then what we're going to end up with is with a black background, red cells inside that black background, right? And then a nice little halo around, a white halo around that cell that indicates presence of a capsule, right? And if the red cells are right in the black background, then that's no capsule. Alright, in order to do that, we need to color the background. And we can only put one bacteria per slide, right? So we can't mix. So what we do is we take our nigrosin. I need to get a bunch more nigrosin. There we go. And we place it in a drop just like that, okay? So I'm going to leave that here so you guys can see. And then we need to take our bacteria. And the bacterium that we're using here today is called Klebsiella Pneumoniae. It's a nice endospore-forming bacteria. Sorry, did I say endospore? I'm all stuck in the wrong word. A nice capsule-forming bacterium. And then we're going to take our bacteria. Now, usually I always say take just a little bit. I find for things like the capsule stain, take a bunch, because you're going to spread this bacterium all over the whole slide, okay? Now, because of the capsule, the bacteria is going to be a little bit sticky, so do what you can to work the bacterium off into the nigrosin. It's not going to be easy. Just going to do what you can to get it off. And then this thing's going to sizzle. Okay, so a little bit longer than normal. Put that away, and then we take a second slide, just dip that in there like that, and then you can either pull or push and cover the whole slide. Now this contains bacteria, right? The bacteria that we just pushed, so this should go straight into the discard. So I'm going to disappear for about 10 seconds while I walk this over to the discard bin. Now remember, most of our smears, we end up heat fixing the slides or the smears, which ends up killing the cells. But for the capsule stain, we can't do that, right? Because the heat is going to essentially melt the sugars of the capsule, and it's going to shrink it. Right? So that's why that slide that I used to push is going to have live bacteria on it. Right? So we can't just put it down on the table because of the fact that it's a biohazard. And also, you got to watch out for this, right? Because the bacteria here are living. Right? So again, just be very careful with how you do this. Now, there are a number of different ways to do this. This should air dry, right? And it's, well, let's just call it close enough, right? Just for demo purposes. And then you want to add the safranin to this. And when you add the safranin, add it very gently, right? And again, cover the slide. Now, it says a minute, but I find that the longer you leave it, the more successful your capsule stain is going to be. So I often leave this for a few minutes, right? Just to run off, go talk to someone, talk about whatever you want, and then come back when it's ready. Now, I don't like to rinse the slide off in this case, right? Because remember, nothing is heat fixed, right? You have to be very careful. So because things aren't heat fixed, your cells and everything can wash right off, right? So just be very careful when you're working with this. Typically, all I really do is after it's done, you gently tip, tap it off, touch it to the paper towel, ready for microscope viewing, right? And you want to see blackness, okay? If you see no blackness, can you guys see that? Then it's not very good, right? So what some people do is they do rinse very gently. It's got to be a very gentle rinse. And part of the problem here, by the way, is I never let it air dry. But you see after this procedure, you see something like that, where I've washed off most of the ink. That means it may not turn out very well. But you take a look anyways, there's still some ink on there. What you want to start looking for is a black field, and within those black fields, look for halos with red cell-like objects in them. Okay. The capsule stain is kind of a challenging stain just because of the fact that things aren't fixed. Things often run off. So our success rate isn't great, but try it out and see what happens for you.